Hey there, I'm Kurt Rosenfeld, and in the next 6 minutes, I will show how Gen AI transforms data accessibility for clinical and research staff in a healthcare setting. You'll see how to switch between structured patient data, EHR as it's known, doctors' clinical notes, and external evidence-based research relevant to the patient's diagnosis. To understand what's happening with the technology, we've created 4 windows so you can see how the system is working. In window 1, we chat with structured EHR data and observe the system generating the logic necessary for interacting with our data sources. In window 2, we apply a data federation service to retrieve the data. In window 3, we interact with clinical note text in the same context as the data in window 1. And finally, in window 4, we interact with external evidence-based clinical research relevant to the patient that we've been working with in windows 1, 2, and 3. We've just deployed the Gen AI large language model with operating controls and behavior protocols specific to our domain environment. Let's investigate what's been happening with sepsis cases at our hospital this past year. We'll break this out by diagnosis-related groups, DRG for short, to help us get a quick read on case complexity. Look at that. We've triggered a protocol requiring a time frame on open questions. So we go ahead and clarify that we mean this year. The system translates our question into a data query, recognizing our use of clinical words such as sepsis as a diagnosis or a treatment. This enables it to target the correct cryptic EHR data tables and break out the sepsis admissions by DRG in this example, using sensible labels in the results and sorting them in descending order. This is all achieved behind the scenes through a 7-stage process, guiding the Gen AI language model and leveraging the data catalog. As a debugging aid, we've instructed the system to generate a short explanation of its data thinking, which you see here. We had concerns about sepsis, but did not realize it was this serious. We need to investigate the mortality rates. In response to concerns about sepsis mortality, the system first understood the ongoing data context in the question. It then deduced how to use the expired flag in the data to calculate the mortality rate, since no such explicit value exists in the database. It also knew to provide both the count and the rate and show the rate as a percentage to 1 decimal place. Furthermore, notice how the DRG is presented as both its label followed by its code in parenthesis. These little things seem trivial, but are vital to making information work the way people tend to think. As we probe the sepsis cases, a peptic ulcer admission catches our eye. This person died in the hospital, and we want the background. We'll ask for the admissions concerning the DRG, and the system automatically deduces that DRG followed by a number means a DRG code. Again, this seems trivial, but imagine if this didn't work and the consequent disruption to the user's mental flow. Now the 2 admissions are retrieved, and the system made helpful choices since we asked for the admission details. And so it included such information as the date, reason, and patient MRN. The best clinical insight is going to be in the clinical chart, so we're about to focus on the unstructured data in this patient's admission. Before we do so, we'd like to know the clinician who recorded the note, so we first ask the system for their information. However, the data is not reliable, triggering a partial protocol that prompts the system to explain this circumstance. We proceed with analyzing the clinical note. Another Gen AI is deployed, this one instructed on how to interpret clinical note language and is waiting to assist with our research. We see that the patient was suffering from symptomatic anemia, which became septic at some point. First, we ask for the cause of death, as noted in the chart. Then we want to look further at their vital signs during their course of stay. then whether they had pre-existing complications. Treating symptomatic anemia with all these complications is challenging, and we want to see the latest research for such situations to examine what we could improve. In Window 4, a clinical research Gen AI is deployed that will first retrieve citation-based research discussing the patient's specific diagnosis and complications. Now the clinical researcher wishes to compare related sepsis mortality rates with external benchmarks. A minor sidebar worth noting: throughout all the windows, the presentation of the information produced by the language models is succinct and so pleasantly formatted you don't even notice. Finally, the researcher inquires about relevant treatment strategies that might inform the clinical protocols currently adopted by the hospital. To close off the case analysis, we review the patient's internal transfers as well as prior admission history to identify pre-existing events that may have contributed to their circumstances. The system translated that by patient movements, we mean the internal transfers between clinical departments, and it used this terminology in the output as defined in the data catalog. Lastly, we find the patient has only been admitted to our hospital this one time, which leads us to question the origins of their severe sepsis. That completes the scenario. I'd like to show you one final capability: the system's ability to explain its knowledge of the data itself. Data catalog, data quality, and data stewardship processes are present in every organization, whether structured and formalized, or team-based and ad hoc. They exist in some form. At the end of the day, people have to learn what their data can do and not do. What we are showing here is how we can bring this data background into the forefront, becoming part of the natural data conversation. That concludes the demonstration. I hope you got a sense of the transformative impact this technology has on bringing information to the user in a manner that is seamless with how they think and how they work. Please contact us at info@ctidata.com to understand the general framework for these kinds of solutions. Thank you for watching.